Good morning, everybody. My name is Mathieu Langelier. I am the Executive Director of the International Actuarial Association, and I'm extremely excited about this semifinal of the Young Actuaries World Cup. Some of you may have seen the little promo video that we have done recently. This is the first time that we are doing this initiatives, and the goal is to bring the four best videos directly in person to Sydney, Australia, where we're going to have the International Congress of Actuaries, where we're going to have those four folks and 1,500 of their brand new closest friends. So it is going to be absolutely exciting. I just cannot wait. And we've received 44 applications. And over the last few weeks, we've done a few of these events, and we have reduced it down to where we are today. So today, because of course you're not here to hear about me, you're here because you want to see those lovely videos and hear about the judging. So we have three judges, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them very soon. The process is we are going to do one after the other. We're going to pass the four semifinalists. We are going to show their video, which is up to 7 minutes, and the judges will have 1 minute to ask a question, and participants will have a 2-minute, time to basically answer the judges and wow everybody. So to make sure that they understand, like, wow, this person like needs to come to Sydney. Like, we just can't do it without. And I'll be here with my popcorn, right? Because it's 8 a.m. So I have to have popcorn. So it's going to be about 10 minutes per judge, per applicant. Then the judges are going to move away to a different Zoom meeting for them to deliberate on the participants that they have seen today. And they're going to come back in the room, and we're going to hear who are the top two winners who are going to be able to then go book their flights to Sydney, which is super exciting. Carla, next slide, please. So as this next slide is coming, exactly, so we are showing the 44 participants from the 6 continental zones, and we are extremely happy about this because we had representation from all over the globe. So those are the pictures, and of course, those videos on our YouTube if you want to be able to look at them. And where we are now, on the next slide, you will see we have our 8 participant, 22, pardon me, the quarterfinalists from 6 zones, and to where we are now at the semifinalists, we have 8 people, the top 8 in the world. So with all their lovely formal pictures here. Next slide, please. All right, lovely. So, and as I said, we are going to bring those today on February 16th is one semifinal. We have one next week as well. And the top 2 for all those, for those 2 events are going to get to Sydney. And don't forget, if you want more information about Sydney, and of course the concept of Bridge to Tomorrow, the website is, you just can go to our website and have access there. You can still register. And if you want to come join your 1,500 closest friends. Perfect. So as I said today, of course, Mathieu Langelier, which is me, and much more importantly, of course, our semifinal judges. We are accompanied by Tanya Manning, Miss Sunshine, always smiling and positive. Pedro, like absolutely amazing, sharply dressed guy, like absolutely amazing, from Mexico, and Jan Carls from the Netherlands, who is one of our always smiling past presidents, that Mr. Smile. So very, very good people here, extremely renowned actuaries. All of them have an extremely good track record, a long career, and they are being judged by them is actually an honor. So like I'm extremely happy that you are here. Thank you for your time. All 3 of you are the crème de la crème, as we would say in French, of the actuaries. So we are very, very pleased that you can be able to take the time from your busy schedules to help us today. So thank you very much. So today we have, as I said, 4 semifinalists. We have Matthew Glebe, and I'm not going to go through all the details, but he is in the United States, and he is a member of the Casualty Actuarial Society. We have Dorota Kowalczyk, and she is in South Africa. Lovely to see you, Dorota. Thank you for coming today. We have Sissy Zhang, who is from the United Kingdom. I do apologize if I missed that name, Sissy. And she is a member of the Actuaries Institute of Australia, who are the host of the lovely ICA that we're going to go to. And we have Jose Miguel Flores Contro. And I do have to say, Jose, like, very, very rare do I see a Spanish name in Lausanne, Switzerland. So like that is something that my day I learned something new every single day. So now I know an actuary in Lausanne, so with a Spanish name. So, and he's a member of Colegio Nacional de Actuarios from Mexico. So congratulations to the four of you, and thank you very much for participating in the event. But without further ado, we are ready to roll out. And the first one we have is Matthew Glebe, who is going to talk to us about the geographic smoothing for equitable school funding. And I know school funding, of course, is a huge topic in the United States and in many countries across the world. And Tanya's nodding, of course, she's from the United States, if I missed that earlier. So Carla, kick it away.
I cannot hear also.
Pardon the small technical glitch, Carla. We're gonna roll it back and there we go. I hear it now.
Hi, my name is Matthew Glebe. I'm a fellow with the Casualty Actuarial Society. I live in Skokie, Illinois, which is just north of Chicago, and therefore I'm in the United States and part of North America. The topic is geographic smoothing for equitable school funding. It's hard to realize true investment in education, especially in America. And the reason for that, though, is it just takes decades to take effect. You're unlikely to receive recognition for that effort, and especially here, it ends up getting caught up in partisanship and gridlock due to the first two reasons. One such issue has to do with school funding itself. For primary and secondary education, most of the funding comes from local taxes, usually property taxes. And as a result, if you are in a district that has less economic development or lower home values, you can end up with less money spent per student, and the result is, no surprise, but lower performance overall relative to the countrywide average. Exacerbating the issue is that families often move from a lower quality district to a higher quality district, which drives up the home values, drives up the price, drives up the tax base, drives up the funding for the newer district, and widens the gap further. Proposed solutions do exist, and one is just simply accepting the status quo, and the other is completely doing away with this system entirely and just applying like a state or even federal level grant per school, or just giving the benefit directly and equitably based on number of students or something like that. However, for families, homeowners, and even businesses in a district that is affluent or has good economic development or good schooling, this could be very, very bad and very costly. Needless to say, home values could plummet pretty quickly, and for most Americans, that comprises their largest asset. For families outside of those districts, though, obviously the status quo is not good either, and doing nothing still continues to cause harm. So actuaries do bring something to the table to this, what appears to be a binary dilemma, using geographic smoothing as one means to achieve a measured gain. First, we have to recognize that income and resulting taxes from local businesses are not just to a particular district. Consider District A. A business in District A likely receives clients from all the surrounding districts. And similarly, residents of District A likely visit other districts for hiring a contractor or going to the grocery store or the hardware store. So it would make sense that a small portion of that benefit should be shared between locales. Also, the local school district itself is not an island. Providing improvements to the next district over will likely improve this local district and its underlying value. Geographic smoothing, radial, kernel, or otherwise, can be this measured approach, where for District A, we might apply a percentage, the first percentage benefit here, and then we select like the first radial ring, for example, like this. And now we're going to apply for each of the districts that fall within here, which include all these first tier ones. They would get the next benefit from District A's tax base. And then we have another radial circle, and that can apply so on and so forth. So the resulting equation is something like, instead of all the tax benefit going to A being just equivalent to its tax basis itself, it would be a weighted average between A and the surrounding districts. This will allow the governing officials to tweak those weights to approximate and eventually move towards more equity over time, as opposed to being a single-year approach. And this can also enable the beginning of genuine change in school funding.
Let's consider an example. For this demo, I'll be working with the 2022 Illinois Report Card financial data, as well as a shapefile from the National Center for Education Statistics. I am scrambling the connection between the shapefile and the financial data so that we can focus on the technique itself as opposed to the outcome. The next step is that we need to determine our radial bands. There are adjacent-based smoothing methods, but this demo will showcase a distance-based method. For simplicity, we will calculate the centroid for each district and find the distance between each centroid and its district boundary. We want to know what is the minimum size we must set for our radial band circumference to ensure that the circle drawn will include districts outside of the given district. That minimum size was determined to be 15.3 kilometers. Illinois itself is 670 by 340 kilometers thereabout, but 15.3 kilometers does still seem a little large. Given more time, we may refine this. Nevertheless, for our demo, we'll continue. After determining the buffer, we can identify which districts intersect with each other district. Unfortunately, the computing power is very steep to calculate the intersection itself for plotting. While this can be computationally expensive for the average citizen on their home computer, utilizing a corporate server for this size of data is near trivial. Now we get to deploy our geographic smoothing technique. There are great alternatives, but for simplicity, I wanted to showcase one that was straightforward to explain. First, we have the weight for A, the weight for each radial band, and finally the weight to be applied to the state. In this example, I am simply comparing the local property taxes and general state aid without adjustment to the pupil level. The sum of the weights should equal 1. Setting the weight for each district A to 1 would result in a perfect relationship between proportion of tax that A pays to the state and the proportion that A receives in aid. Setting the weight of the state to 1 would result in the state dividing the aid up evenly across the districts. We have set values for the weights and are ready to explore the impact. As can be shown here, it appears that the districts who did receive a negative impact, meaning less aid, helped offset many other districts in receiving massive assistance on a percentage basis. Similarly, we can plot the results and show the impacts. This especially helps with communication. Remember that this is all pseudo data, but based on this output, an actuary can adjust the weights and make decisions and continue. While this example only focuses on Illinois, the issue of inadequate funding for schools is in other countries, and there could be merit in considering a transformation towards a more complex but transparent system for providing funding. UNICEF determined that inequity funding for education is a critical problem requiring devotion of resources. We as people are not benefiting from equal opportunities for all to succeed. As a result, we will experience less global growth. Setting up a structure like this to allow an actuary or a government official to adjust weights can achieve small but overall positive impacts, and thereby help spread more equitable school funding.
That was lovely. Thank you very much for this presentation. Again, Matthew, I've never even thought about that. It's a very, very good point. I'm going to go now to the judges because this is the crunch time for the first one. We have one of our judges is going to come in and ask you a question, and then you will have 2 minutes to answer and try to wow everybody.
Oh boy.
Judges.
All right.
It's Tanya who's raising her hand. Tanya, please.
Well, Matthew, unlike you, I have spent a lot of time thinking about this issue as something I'm actually quite passionate about and trying to have more equitable educational opportunities in the country where I live, the U.S., same as Matthew. So you intrigued me with this. While Abbott Elementary is a funny show, it's not really funny when you get underneath it all. And we do have an issue. The thing that I was wondering about is how could your model be flexible in considering other cost parameters. There is certainly the tax base that gets moved into the schools, but what about the, I call it the non-dollar contributions, or other soft dollars that kind of infiltrate and lift up certain schools and leave other schools behind? Can you flex your model to include those parameters? Thank you.
Yeah, and are you talking, because even within like government, yeah, by the way, can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate your question. And also just saying thank you very much for letting me be a part of this. I'm very honored to be even considered with all these other candidates. It's awesome. Yeah, even within like the government's funding model, when I was reviewing that like data set from the state of Illinois, I mean, it's not just strictly a general fund. There's other funding that comes from the state. Are you also talking about like grants that people apply for federal? Yeah, there's federal funds.
Well, just whatever. Okay. I mean, can you expand the number of parameters, I guess is my question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's funny that I was going to say this sounds extremely nerdy, but we're a bunch of actuaries, so it can't be that bad. I was just reading over Mahler's and Corey and Venter. They have a multidimensional credibility paper. And I was just thinking, oh, I should have included this or this. But I wanted to keep the example that I showed in the R Markdown file extremely simple. But I actually think you could apply it as like, more of like a model. What I was doing was, a very simple like average, between, and I only had one radial band. I would imagine that there'd be several and an actual application here. The idea here is just to enable regulators, enable legislators to move. Most people I know understand and believe that this is important, but the problem is that to get there is extremely disruptive. And on from my pricing experience, one of the things we do very tactfully is achieving that like needed loss costs over time and through accounting for like capping essentially impacts. And this is a way by which we can do that. And you could apply other factors. So I'm sorry if I took up too much time there. But yeah.
It's perfect. You were right on time, Matthew. So thank you very much for that. It's see, that was easy. That was like, not too bad. Like our judges are very generous this morning, so that's very good. I appreciate that very much. And by the way, Matthew, I just gotta say I'm a big fan of the use of the board that you have in the side with like the clips and everything. I showed it to my kids, and now they want me to buy one for them. So there you go. So you're creating like educational needs even across the border. But anyways, that's very good. Thank you for that, Matthew. Lovely, and we wish you the best of luck. Now it's time, Carla, to move on to our next semifinalist, please.
Pedro, up to you.
Actually, you're missing the other two judges.
Oh, I am missing the other two judges. You're
Yes.
right. Pardon me. So see, hey, I'm just gonna eat popcorn then now. Yeah, Jan, you're the next. There we go. Sorry about that. My bad, Matthew. You still have two more questions for you. All right.
Got it.
Go ahead.
Let's do it.
Yeah, Matthew, I really think it's a very interesting idea, and let's say as a Dutch person, it is always difficult to understand what is going on in the US and what kind of basics you've implemented in relation to the school system, etc. And at the same moment, I looked at the video. I had something like, okay, what kind of challenges and barriers we will get confronted with at the moment we try to implement that. Could you elaborate a bit more about what kind of challenges and barriers you would foresee at the moment you are going to try to sell this idea?
Absolutely. Yeah. And Jan, I'll just say that my brother-in-law lives in Rotterdam, and he also comments on when Dutch people hear about this, they're like, doesn't this kind of tax system lead to extreme inequities? And the answer is yes. So first, this is going to require dedicated personnel. There's no way around that. You got to do the analysis. Good work takes effort and time. I treat it similar to like Werner Maudlin's paper on territories. You got to determine those first, and that could be sensitive. A lot of this, I think at the end of the day, would come down to will. I want to say like political will, honestly, but I think that actuaries, especially in the US, we're extremely regulated, so we're kind of used to that kind of conflict. And so at the end of the day, it'd be a lot of education and investing in like educating not just the public, but like legislatures and like Department of Education to help them understand, hey, we don't even need to change literally anything yet. Let's just set up this structure because we already have 100% of the weight applied to one side of the equation, and people want to go to the other 100% on the other side. So what if we just apply it like just set up the formula, so to speak, and then enable you over time to get there. But I think honestly the best strategy to address that is very local. So there's applications to this internationally. I mentioned in the video, but like UNICEF talks about this, and I was looking at some other countries and their structures, France, and I know France has a little bit different system. There's like a conflict about how they fund like private schools versus public schools. And I showed the UK, they have this like really rigorous formula. So different countries, you know, that'd be like awesome long-term to make it an international application. But I was just, you know, for me, I was thinking what's an immediate issue in the US, and this is something I saw. And I think that we can get there. We just start locally.
Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so then moving on, Pedro.
Hi, Matthew. Congratulations, an excellent paper. Very interesting approach of applied mathematics of using the smoothing in the geographical area. As Jan has mentioned, being me a frequent visitor of United States as a tourist and also in business purposes, I believe United States has a very level society and access to a lot of services. So it's very interesting to see what you are presenting. My question goes, have you analyzed which is the limit of the geographical zone, considering the differences between the cities and the states that you have in the United States? Have you analyzed what should be that limit in order to have that weighted average between the different approaches that the taxes should help to develop this?
Yeah, so can I make sure I understand? So you're talking about like applying what I was using the term impacts, but you're saying what should be the limit that a district experiences?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's great. So you know that's a good question, because I'm used to effectively the government saying, like, or our business partners saying, we don't want any policyholder to experience a rate change of X, so we cap it already. And you can do that. You know, from my work experience, I've seen that happen. So that's something we can do. I didn't apply it directly, but I kind of view that as an input, so to speak, as opposed to an output. I guess that I don't know if that answers your question, but I would view it more as like an input to the equation as opposed to an output. Is like what is the maximum we want to experience, and then as a result, how long does it take to achieve that equitable funding goal? I hope that answers your question. All
yes,
right.
yes, specifically because there's a major difference if you have a city that's within New York State,
yeah,
or one in the middle of the country,
yep,
which has more rural areas, and there's a big difference in the income.
Oh yeah, you know, I appreciate it. Thank you for clarifying. Actually, so in this example, which was all pseudo data, you might have noticed, it was kind of hard to notice, but there was just a small change in the like amount of funding to one particular district. I believe, given the map, it was probably CPS, Chicago Public Schools. A small deviation, really small. It was like less than 1% decline in funding, and you had drastic increases across the entire state. Huge, and the rural areas experienced like a huge increase. So again, it's all pseudo data, but the point being that is very possible. Especially in Illinois, rural districts, you know, really are underfunded. So it's achievable that a small change could lead to a big change in some other districts, just like you said, from New York City to other areas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, right on time, 3 out of 3. That's lovely. All right. So now moving on to the next. Thank you very much, Matthew. Thank you, judges. That was the warm-up round. I like it. Very nice. We're going to move directly to Dorota.
Good day, I am Dorota Kowalczyk, and today I will be presenting on a bridge to an AI tomorrow. This presentation includes some background on AI-related job losses, my proposed solution, and the benefits thereof. Outlining the background. In recent times, there have been significant advances in AI. The video shown here was taken by a drone, which with a click of a button follows its own flight path and captures the footage needed to generate this video. In November 2022, OpenAI also released a conversational AI model called ChatGPT. This slide summarizes some of the amazing advancements in AI technology in recent times and demonstrates that AI is not coming, but that it has arrived. So what does it mean for all of us? I recently read AI Superpowers by Kai-Fu Lee. Lee has years of experience working in AI, and in his book, he describes the impact he believes the implementation of AI will have on job losses. Lee estimates that AI-related job losses will total around 40 to 50% of all US jobs by the mid-2030s. Similar estimates apply to other parts of the world. AI will also affect both white and blue-collar workers. The release of ChatGPT has brought greater attention to this matter, and these headlines demonstrate that we are on the brink of dealing with this job loss crisis. These headlines also communicate the urgency with which actuaries should be prioritizing defining measures to manage this risk. This indicates that there is a significant risk of a job loss crisis. This crisis is in direct contradiction to the UN Sustainability and Development Goal 8 of achieving full and productive employment and decent work for all women and men by 2030. Commonly suggested solutions to this crisis include upskilling and offering a universal basic income. The issue with upskilling is that after an individual's job becomes obsolete, without any guidance, upskilling for a job in a new industry or sector may feel daunting and may feel like an impossible maze to have to navigate. Lee describes the drawbacks of a universal basic income in his book. He explains that offering this income to jobless workers may strip them of their sense of purpose and satisfaction. He continues to say that by doing so, we would both devalue our own humanity and miss out on an unparalleled opportunity. But what is this unparalleled opportunity for actuaries? Actuaries analyze data using various statistical and analytical tools to make predictions about the future. We do this to quantify and manage risk. The unparalleled opportunity for actuaries in the age of AI is to use AI to enhance our work and processes. AI will soon become our newest co-worker. Instead of replacing us, it will augment our profession. This will enable us to analyze more data using better tools to make enhanced predictions on a more personalized basis to provide better solutions and better manage risk. OpenAI's ChatGPT confirms the scope for collaboration. Actuaries have an opportunity to leverage AI in combination with our risk management and financial skills to manage the job loss risks associated with the introduction of AI. Outlining my proposed solution. Actuaries are involved in unemployment funds all over the world, assisting in calculating the level of contributions needed to provide unemployment benefits. Unemployment funds are funded by tax contributions from workers, and upon unemployment, workers claim a monetary benefit whilst they search for another job. This cycle breaks down if the individual's job becomes obsolete or is replaced. My proposed solution is introducing an unemployment fund which differs from current unemployment funds in two ways. Firstly, an AI system would be underlying the fund. Secondly, the benefit offered by the fund would consist of two components. Outlining the two components of the unemployment benefit on this proposed fund in more detail. The first component of the unemployment benefit would be the same as monetary benefits offered on current funds. This benefit would be intended to cover living expenses whilst workers upskill. The second component would be an upskilling benefit, which could be offered as a structured learning path consisting of online courses. This would enable workers to acquire new skills and re-enter the job market, and this benefit could be offered in partnership with the private sector. This benefit could be funded retrospectively by levying a charge on workers' salaries who have completed the upskilling and have been rehired. Both of these components could also be funded by a small increase in current contributions by both employers and employees. Outlining the AI underlying the fund in more detail. This slide shows an overview of the data inputs required and the data outputs produced for this proposed solution. The next slide details the data inputs. All the data inputs required for this proposed solution are listed here. Outlining the job recommendations output in more detail. This output will manage the risk associated with individuals who have lost their jobs due to the jobs becoming obsolete. In this case, The AI system will identify any workers who have recently lost their jobs. On an individual basis, using a recommender system, the personal data relating to each individual will be analyzed. 3 job recommendations will then be suggested to each person, which will be optimized based on the characteristics, skills, interests, and traits associated with each occupation and industry. The individual will then choose their preferred job. The system will identify any skills gaps the individual will need to upskill in, create a structured learning path, and progress will be tracked. Upon completion, the individual will re-enter the job market in a new job. During the upskilling period, the monetary benefit component covering the living expenses will also be paid to the individual. Outlining the upskill recommendations output in more detail. This output will manage the risk associated with individuals whose jobs are being augmented by AI, instead of being replaced by AI. Workers will need to upskill to be able to effectively incorporate AI into their daily jobs. Only the upskilling component of the benefit will apply to these workers. Current and future occupation and industry data will be analyzed. Using a recommender system, each worker will be recommended any new critical skills identified which are applicable to their job and which they may have to upskill in. A structured learning path will then be created, and the progress and completion of the courses will be tracked. This output will assist all workers in upskilling efficiently and proactively, thereby reducing the magnitude of job losses and assisting in navigating the maze of upskilling. The benefits of my proposed solution are listed in the slide. In conclusion, actuaries are best placed to assist in building a bridge to a better AI tomorrow, filled with opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dorota. That was very nice. And it's being in North America, I really appreciate the use of data versus data. Like we have these, like, even though like I'm a Trekkie and I did love the old Star Trek, but like it's data, not data. Anyways,
You're welcome.
That's lovely. And a very interesting presentation, like 40 to 50% unemployment by 2030. That is certainly something that I'm very happy to see some young actuaries working on. So without further ado, and I'm going to do reverse order this time of questions. Why? Because why not? Pedro, you have a question, please.
Yes, congratulations, Dorota. Very interesting approach of what's happening in all professions. My question goes, what do you think about this approach that you are presenting regarding actuarial profession? Because actuarial profession is also in a risky situation. And we have seen that in recent years, because the development of statistical tools and the use of a lot of systems that can do more operational work is really making a risk to our profession. In order to upscale and applying your approach, what would you suggest for actuarial profession?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. So when it comes to how risky the actuarial profession is, I think it's as risky as we make it. So what I'm trying to say is I think we are best placed as a profession to basically incorporate AI into our daily work and then to leverage AI to ensure that our profession becomes one of the professions that are like at the forefront and are leading AI solutions. I think it's up to us as a profession to do that though. So I think we need to start having conversations about AI and how we can incorporate ML and AI into our daily work, as well as developing guidelines on ethics and, you know, how to manage AI and ethics. But basically, the machine learning comes down to modeling. And we as a profession have been using modeling since the beginning, like you mentioned. So it's just about incorporating that into our work and making use of it, as opposed to letting data scientists incorporate it and then them basically having better predictions, better estimates than us. Whereas if we rise up and basically include this, then we have a huge opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. All right, moving on. Jan, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dorota. Also a very, very nice and interesting idea how to solve, or at least to be more proactive towards future challenges. And I really like it. It really gives us something to think about. My thought about this is, I don't know where, but I saw something like it's all up to the business case. So regarding this presentation, I'm thinking of that as well. So my first thought is what is different from earlier disruptions we've seen, and have you tried to quantify the financial effect for the macro advantages of this idea?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. Yeah, so thanks, Cece. It's all up to the business case. So when it comes, if I understand correctly, you're basically asking for almost like a cost-benefit analysis, sort of this.
Especially how you're going to sell this.
Okay, so in terms of how I'm going to solve this, I think it's really easy. I think this is a huge problem. And I think with the release of various AI technologies, such as ChatGPT in recent times, I think it's now becoming very topical, and I think it's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. So obviously, this is quite a significant issue that needs to be solved. And we as actuaries have expertise in a variety of areas. So we have our modeling and our statistical and mathematical backgrounds. We also have experience in financial risks. We also have a huge experience in professionalism and ethics, which is obviously extremely important in this sort of an area. As well as dealing with various stakeholders. So we do this in order to quantify and manage risk. And at the end of the day, this comes down to people becoming unemployed and losing their jobs, and this becoming a massive risk that needs to be quantified and managed. So I think actuaries are definitely best placed to do this. And I think in our day-to-day work, we already have experience in how to basically engage with stakeholders and basically, yeah, like manage risk and communicate risk in layman's terms. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and sorry, just to quickly add, also in terms of selling this idea, I think it's quite easy to sell because there's both benefits to both the public and the private sector. The private sector is basically going to have an avenue to upskill their workforce, which is going to make us competitive worldwide in a world where you have to be competitive. Whereas for government, that's the biggest issue. You have to have adoption and buy-in from government, and this will increase GDP growth and tax revenue and reduce unemployment. So that's also a huge selling point. Sorry, ran out of time.
Great.
A little bit of a buffer from Pedro's question, so I let it run, and that's pretty good. All right, so last question, Tanya, please.
Yes, thank you. This is another topic that's of great interest to me, so thank you for covering this. My question is, in the skills gap where you're trying to give training to people once you identify a potential new job for them, that could have quite a variance. Let's say, how do we account for the fact that someone may just need to learn a very short and easy trade, whereas someone else might have to go back and get another degree, so to speak? Does this upskilling, is it flexible to allow? And how do we address the variance in quote benefits for someone who just needs a little bit and someone needs a lot? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So, basically with what she's saying that someone might need a lot and someone might need like more, I think that comes down to also how our life insurance products, for example, are structured. I mean, someone might get a life insurance product and then within 12 months, they might pass away, the exclusion clause is expired and we have to pay them out. Someone else might be paying for 40 years. So I think we have experience as actuaries in the probabilities of when certain events will happen, and that would definitely be factored into the solution. It would definitely be factored in that someone might need a lot, someone might need less. And the way that would be done is simply based on the skill set of each individual person would be analyzed, and then obviously appropriate contributions would be set. And if you look at current contributions of UIFs as well as the claims paid out, there is quite a significant surplus. Obviously in years like COVID, which we saw recently with the pandemic, that surplus decreases. But those contributions could also be increased, as mentioned in the video, to cover to cover basically longer training sets for some people, lesser training sets for others. And then the way this would also be hugely factored in is that this upskilling could be basically paid off with an income sharing agreement. So that is seen in boot camps in the USA, where people don't pay upfront, but they complete the course or the boot camp, and they then enter the workforce and they start working, and then they basically pay off, like those are those charges that are levied on those salaries. So obviously that would be a huge factor, which would then pay off the upskill benefit. Obviously there's an issue that not everyone might get rehired immediately, so that would have to be priced into the contributions, because obviously the upskilling benefit would have to be paid for upfront. Yeah, so that would be factored in, and it's easy, yeah, to factor that in. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Good question, everybody there. And Dorota, I do have to say that the picture of the upskilling that you used in your presentation was quite funny. Like that lady there, like, did not look like she was enjoying her lessons at all.
I kind of put that in and then thought maybe I should have used something else. But anyways, thank you so much for all the questions.
It made me laugh. So thank you very much for your presentation. Good luck to you as well. So now moving on, we have Sissy.
Mr. Vader, I'm from Imperial Insurance. I'm here to do your medical examination so that we can process your life insurance application.
Oh, right. Okay then.
First question, do you have any respiratory illnesses?
I have mild asthma.
And what is your occupation?
Personal assistant to an evil galactic emperor. It's mostly paperwork.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed do you feel at work?
17,000.
Thanks, Mr. Vader. By the way, as part of our supportive life insurance product, you get unlimited mental health and physio sessions. The mental health sessions might help you manage your stress at work. We also offer a Zumba class every Tuesday. Do you have any questions?
Yes. What time is the Zumba class?
Thanks for doing target practice with me. No worries, Luke, but I need to bring something up. We have renewed all our starfighters with a telematics insurer. Premiums are set according to the behavior and safety of our pilots. Your premiums are through the roof. The reports show that you speed recklessly, brake too late around corners, and take long-distance trips to Dagobah. Well, that's part of my job. I'm sorry, Luke, but you are a menace in the skies. I have to suspend your pilot's license. You don't want to suspend my pilot's license. I don't want to suspend your pilot's license. You will bring me an iced latte. I will bring you an iced latte.
Firstly, how do we develop a product that contributes to a better society? We work through the product development life cycle. And in this cycle, I want to concentrate on a specific element, the business case, because this is a vital component that can make or break a new product. There are a lot of quantifications that go into the business case, calculating the expense savings, improved persistency, and so on. These are all elements that actuaries are trained to do. But how about quantifying the intangible elements? These important elements are often missed because they are difficult to calculate. Calculating social impacts is possible with the right data. For example, if a car insurer offers telematics that encourages road safety, then they can compare the claim rates for those who use telematics and those who don't. Data control and integrity is important. The best data set would only include customers who have both used telematics and not used it over different years, so that we have a controlled data set. Public data can then be used to quantify the cost impact on the public health system. Social impacts are a powerful message to put into a business case, as it supports the goals and values of a company. An illustrative example is that the new product design will prevent 10 deaths, 500 serious injuries, 1,000 minor injuries, and this will save the public health system $8 million per year. So how can we then calculate the brand benefits? Consumers are making more decisions based on a company's social responsibilities. One of the most popular ways of measuring a brand in marketing is the Net Promoter Score. This is usually done in a survey with a question like, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend? London School of Economics found that 7 points increase in the Net Promoter Score correlates with a 1% growth in revenue. This is a great tool to compare consumer sentiment towards different products. Another useful technique in marketing is A/B testing. This is when we advertise two similar messages with one differing variable. In this case, the variable is a message on less carbon emission. The success rate of the two ads can help quantify this variable. For example, there is a 10% higher click-through rate in ad B compared to ad A, showing that this environmental message increases the brand impact by 10%. Further iterations of A/B testing can be used to separate the impact of brand versus impact of price in a business case. A/B testing is commonly used in marketing, and actuaries should work with them to leverage their techniques and help set assumptions. Then we can quantify how the brand impact will support growth for the company. An illustrative example is that the new telematics product will increase sales by 10% due to the brand impact, and this will lead to an increase in the yearly sales of $50 million and profit of $5 million. Employees are becoming more likely to leave if a company is not doing enough to address environmental issues. There are significant costs of an employee leaving, from lost productivity to recruitment fees. We can work with HR to estimate these cost assumptions. These talent impacts then help to support the need for better products and also better practices in the company. An illustrative example is that focusing on environmental responsibility will increase the average length of employee service from 5 to 6 years, which would save the company $200,000 in costs. If we are able to support the business case with quantifiable numbers showing the social benefits, brand benefits, and talent benefits, then this will give clarity to senior management. It will help get the business case signed off and help drive faster implementation of products that contribute to a better society and environment.
Mr. Vader, the Death Star is under attack, Emperor Palpatine wants to know that you have purchased sufficient home and contents insurance for it.
Oh, I forgot.
I hear YAWC Insurance gives premium discounts for energy efficiency and building safety. They are a socially responsible insurer.
I like that. I will give them a call now. Oh.
Thank you very much for this presentation, Sissy. I do admit that it's the first time that I'm seeing Star Wars directly related to one of our IAA events, so that's new for me, so thank you very much for that. We're going to mix up again the questions. I would start with Jan, please.
Yeah, Sissy, really hilarious. So a totally different approach of presenting ideas to our profession. I love it. I really love it. But then, getting more seriously, it is something about, okay, what are we going to do about this to make it happen? So my first question, for instance, as IAA representative or a local actuarial association representative, I have something like, should our education system then be adapted to these intangible elements? So what is your idea about it, and do you have any suggestions?
Yes, I think in order to create change and to kind of set behaviors and do things better in the profession, it does start from one, just creating that awareness of change that needs to happen, and two, yes, you're absolutely right, adding it in a more formalized way into the education system. And I think it's already something that we are moving towards. A lot of the kind of actuarial subjects now have a degree of ESG, so environment, social, and governance perspective to it. So that is already starting to be incorporated. And I think it's just something that we need to continue doing. I mean, for the Australian actuarial exams a few years ago, we did have, you know, the CAP exams that had an assignment that we had to do on an ESG topic. And that kind of gets us to start thinking about it. And I think that's a starting point, starting the education, starting the awareness. And then in terms of the formal structure, whether or not we need that or not, it could be based on companies just incorporate that into their usual process. Or if it's kind of better to align and have a kind of a framework that different companies can all use, so they're a bit more aligned in terms of assumptions and methodology, then I think that's also another way to go. But yeah, I think step one is just to create the awareness, add it in the education syllabus, and just kind of keep talking about it and keep exploring this as an idea.
You still have 25 seconds, so I simply raise another question. You also talked about cooperation. Is that something which can be implemented in education, or should it be done on a company level?
No, that's definitely a good point, because I always talk to our marketing team and I have a cross kind of team project with them. And that's why I've learned all these marketing techniques, which are actually very valuable, and we don't utilize it. So yeah, definitely promote cross interaction between different teams. And that's also something that we probably should mention a bit more in education we provide.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pedro, please.
Hi, Cici, congratulations. It's a very interesting approach for the development of products. And I definitely agree with you that products should be developed for a better society. So I'm also always following more about what Jan has asked you. What's your perspective of what should actuaries need to add to their academic background in order to have this social brand and talent impact that you are planning? What do you see? What we are lacking of in order to implement better products?
Yeah, I think, I mean, what we do right now is we focus quite a lot on the quantification of things, quantification of risks. And we look at, I guess, all the traditional risks that are involved in a life or general insurance product, which is, for example, mortality, morbidity, lapses, and expenses, because those are the things that have always existed in kind of core traditional insurance products. And those are what we focus on. Yet, you know, things have changed. It's a lot more innovative these days. Insurance companies are trying to differentiate themselves with all these different features, the customer and customer needs. That's core now as well. So as we kind of change as an industry and evolve our products, then I think the actuarial techniques also need to change. So I think it's, you know, obviously we have to keep quantifying all these traditional risks. I think it's just keeping an open mind to the fact that we also need to adopt new practices as we adopt new products and cater to society and customer needs in a different way. So I think, you know, it's not that they can't be quantified. I think it's more, we just haven't really thought about it as part of the general framework in terms of how we quantify risks, these additional risks. And I think it's something that, you know, needs to be added to company process. I know when I develop and submit business cases, you know, I refer to old business cases as templates, and in the templates, they all have, you know, quantification in terms of the traditional risks, how we're going to improve mortality, morbidity, etc. So we need to kind of refresh those, have an open mind for what's moving and changing, and then add different things into those frameworks. And so, you know, for example, I've mentioned the social impact, brand impact, and talent impact. So those are just, you know, key areas that we can start exploring, and we just kind of start from there.
Great, thank you.
Tanya, please.
Yeah, so thank you for that entertaining presentation. A little bit of a Star Wars geek, so that was kind of fun. My question is, I agree with you that this should be a cost factor. It's subjective, it's difficult. Actuaries hate subjectivity in their pricing, but that is, I agree, that's something we have to figure out how to do. My question is, I guess, I don't know how far you've thought about exactly how you could model this, but there seems to be, actuaries are really good at valuing things in the long term versus, you know, some of the short term. We can look at the very long term span. And this is something that would have that need, because I see the weighting of the importance of ESG kind of varying with the age of the population that you're trying to sell your services and products to. So is that something you've thought about as far as how, you know, the importance now versus the importance later, and kind of incorporating that into some sort of a model to weigh into your business case? I hope that made sense. But.
Okay, yeah. So it sounds like you're kind of asking about the difference between the short-term and long-term modeling and impacts. Yeah, I think as a starting point, the focus really should be on the shorter term impacts. And I say that just because that's probably a bit easier to quantify with the data that we have. So for example, we might be able to look at, I think the example I had was if we had a telematics car insurer, look at the portion of data of customers who have used it and have not used it, and use that to kind of compare what we think is the impact on driving safety and driving ability based on those two different cohorts. And in terms of then applying those findings from the analysis of the data, I think as a starting point, it would be more of a short-term impact, just because of the fact that it is a new data set. And I guess we need to have a kind of a decent sample size. That's statistically important. And then two, probably track experience to see if that experience does pan out in the way that you have assumed it to be. So I think it probably is safer to use it as short-term assumption changes in your valuation model, and then kind of track it each year to see how it goes. But we probably would implement it in terms of the full duration of the model and the full duration of a policy. However, we would track it year by year in the sense that we would potentially adjust it and change our assumptions on a year by year basis, even though the assumptions have been applied to a longer term. So for example, with life insurance, we might be modeling on a 30-year term, life insurance term. I would say if we have significant data to apply these assumptions to a 30-year term, then yes, we should do that, but we should review these assumptions on a year by year basis. Just so that we are tracking experience regularly.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sissy. It does show that you are one of the actuaries that do spend time talking to marketing people. So that's good. It's I think it's always important for actuaries to brush up those skills. And for the record, I do agree that Luke is indeed a menace to the skies. Like, there's no way. Like, you know, we got to tone this guy down. All right, last but not least, Jose Miguel.
Hay cosas que podrán cambiar. Bajo este techo no lo harán. ¿Quién dice que hay solo un lugar? Si hay muchos más. Sin rumbo fijo,
Recently, the world has experienced devastating natural disasters such as floods, droughts, and extreme heat. According to a new climate update published by the World Meteorological Organization in 2021, the average global temperature is likely to temporarily reach 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels in at least one of the next 5 years. That is, earlier than expected. Moreover, a recent study has found that 30% of the world's population currently suffers deadly heat temperatures for at least 20 days per year, and this number is expected to rise to approximately 50% by the year 2100. Similarly, health risks such as pandemics have proven to be a great threat for humankind. For instance, the World Bank estimates the COVID-19 pandemic has led to 97 million more people into poverty, an unprecedented increase in global poverty. Despite the need of investing more in resilience building, a financing gap for adaptation and disaster risk reduction remains wide. From the inclusive insurance perspective, according to the landscape of microinsurance, a study performed in 2021 by the Microinsurance Network, just above 64% of the potential market for inclusive insurance, largely made up of low-income individuals, is currently covered, meaning that there is still a huge gap to be lessened. This is mainly due to the fact that this particular segment of the population is characterized by being difficult to reach, and inclusive insurance providers have lack of access to them. In this context, in addition to act as a bridge for actuaries all around the world to get more involved in the inclusive insurance sector, the aim of this video is to introduce an integral inclusive insurance solution consisting of an insurance protection and a savings account for smallholder farmers. Such inclusive insurance solution will provide smallholder farmers with coverage against climate change and health risks. This particular sector of the population is one of the most vulnerable against this type of risks. But you might be asking yourself, why is it so important to have actuaries in the inclusive insurance sector? Well, it turns out that the appropriate design of inclusive insurance solutions, which is usually performed with the help of actuaries, could be helpful to enhance social development. For instance, recently some researchers have shown how insurance can help low-income individuals reduce their likelihood to fall into the area of poverty. This is great! This means that, among many other things, insurance can help society attain the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, a list of 17 goals that is meant to be reached by year 2030. A fair question would be, hey buddy, why are we focusing in smallholder farmers? Well, a quick answer would also be, why not? No, seriously speaking, this video just introduces an example of an inclusive insurance solution for a particular sector of the population. However, with our actuarial creativity, we could design any other solution for any other particular sector of the population. The development of the smallholders farmers sector represents a great resource for humanity. According to some research, the world's smallholder farmers produce around 1/3 of the world's food, revealing the importance of this sector for human development. On the other hand, the sector's current status exposes the need of resilience building, particularly in the form of insurance for this particular group. The first element of the integral inclusive insurance solution is the smallholder farmer itself. He or she will make insurance premiums payment to the insurance company in exchange of the insurance protection which is provided by the insurance company itself. Donor agencies and NGOs can also play an important role in the proposed inclusive insurance solution. For instance, they can help smallholder farmers to pay the insurance premiums by providing subsidies. Similarly, governments can also play an important role in a proposed inclusive insurance solution. For instance, they can also subsidize an amount of the premium smallholder farmers need to pay. This would, among many other aspects, help make the product much more affordable. Another element is the index provider. The index provider will receive a portion of the premium in exchange of the provision of its services, which generally include, among many other, the analysis of historical weather data to structure index insurance products. As mentioned previously, the inclusive insurance solution will also include a savings component. The saving components can provide a buffer against short-term needs for smallholder farmers. Moreover, it can also accumulate a fund for future needs, for instance, for retirement. Last but not least, a healthcare platform will also be part of the inclusive insurance solution. The healthcare platform will provide convenient and reliable healthcare services to the smallholder farmers in exchange of a portion of the premium. This image shows a rough timeline of the proposed inclusive insurance solution, so feel free to stop the video to take a look more in detail to it.
It's the first time I'm seeing credits at the end of a video for these ones. Very good point and very nice music there, Jose. Thank you very much for that. I'm gonna go reverse order because I want to keep Pedro for the last one of these questions. So I'm gonna start with Tanya, please.
All right, thank you. I just have to say, wow, I'm known for my coffee mugs. This morning I picked up my sustainable goals mug, if you can't see that. And I'm happy to see that that has been referenced at least a couple of times in the presentations and very much emphasized by what you did. So this was exceptionally interesting. I like the resilience building through inclusive insurance. I was wondering, I was intrigued by the end where you said it could go even further than just the insurance, but providing other financial support aids. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you had in mind there, where it's not just flowing through the insurance to help them through the more frequent needs to have, support during climate influences? What else did you have in mind? If you could just say a little more about that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the thing is that most of the people who we are targeting in inclusive insurance, they are not familiar with any financial service. So one of the ways of getting to these people is to actually bundle insurance with some other financial services. In this example of the inclusive insurance solution I introduced in the video, I bundled insurance with savings. However, it can also be bundled with some other financial services, as you asked me. For instance, the most traditional, and actually, I think this could be the considered as the first microinsurance product ever, was when insurance was bundled with credit or with a loan, right? So a bank was giving a loan to a person, and if this person died, then the insurance covered the outstanding balance of the loan as a cover for the family of this person, no? So, for instance, loans are also another financial instrument that can be used instead of insurance. However, at the same point, loans are not that good because, as we know, usually they are provided with high interest rates and are not optimal for this kind of population we're trying to target. Also, why it's important to bundle insurance with some other financial services, because, for instance, in the sense, this makes insurance more inclusive in the way in which, for instance, women perceive risk in a different way compared to men. For example, women are more worried about the well-being of their families, while men are more worried about their income. Therefore, for example, women can be more interested in savings or other financial services rather than insurance that cover the income, in this case, of the farm.
Lovely, thank you for that. Jan, please.
Yeah, Jose, very good to bring focus on the importance of inclusive insurance. The concept of inclusive insurance is not new, but so far we haven't really succeeded in really getting it more broadly implemented. And it looks like that we can only be successful with the support of donors and governments. Especially if you talk about bundling services, I have something like, oh, we certainly need those donors and governments to really make it happen. So what needs to happen then? What needs to be improved to get that support?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you for your question. Yeah, as you mentioned, and well, as I tried to also to communicate via the video, the good public and private partnerships are key for reaching sustainable inclusive insurance products. Because if we do not have these partnerships among governments, donors, private insurers, etc., then we are not going to attain sustainable inclusive insurance products. And how, in the case, for instance, for governments, recently there have been some research papers in which the researchers prove that with insurance, apart from reducing the likelihood of low-income people from falling into the poverty area, let's say, insurance can also reduce the cost of social protection that governments incur for taking away these people out from the area of poverty. So this is also linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. For instance, this solution, which I presented in this video, can have direct impact in the first, for example, just to give an example, in the first two goals, which the first one is no poverty and the second one is zero hunger, as far as I remember. So, for instance, this in many governments are considered as public policy objectives, and insurance can be really helpful to attain or to eradicate this or to attain these goals. Therefore, this is why this can be interesting for many of the stakeholders, in this case for the governments of a country. And for many other stakeholders, for instance, for mobile network operators, this can also be interesting to add insurance coverage in their products, because this can attract more clients, for example.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Last but not least, Pedro, please.
Hi, Jose Miguel. Congratulations, a great presentation, and also a very challenging task that you are presenting. I have two questions. What would you consider is the major challenge for implementing the project that you are presenting? And the second goes, considering the different products that you suggest to have in this inclusive insurance, what would be the amount of the premium in an annual basis that you would consider to be reasonable?
Okay, well, I will answer the first question first. So the main challenge, I would say, it's to actually make people or our target clients trust insurance, because as I mentioned in the first question they asked me, the people who are targeting, they are not used to financial services and even less to insurance. So for instance, they don't even trust insurance, because you get to these people and you tell them, yeah, maybe in the future, if you suffer a loss, then you will receive a payout to cover this loss. They will, of course, don't trust you. So I would say that's the main challenge, to make people trust insurance. And how we can do this, for instance, one approach can be to initially first offer the insurance coverage for free, but actually it's not for free. Let's say the government subsidizes 100% the premium. And in this way, people are gonna start receiving the benefits from insurance, but they will not pay for it. But after some time, we can start reducing the subsidy, and then they can start paying for it. And after they saw the benefits of being subscribed into the insurance program, then they will therefore trust more the program, and they will be okay in paying the premium. Also, another approach is by providing value-added services into the insurance, which could be, for instance, recommendations on how they can grow their crops in a proper way, or in the health side, the value-added services could also offer like a healthy recommendations for having a healthy lifestyle, for example, and this will make insurance more tangible. And to answer the second question, it's actually very hard, and this is actually this is why we need actuaries in the inclusive insurance sector, because the pricing of these products is actually quite complicated, because we are bundling a lot of products in a package, in the same package, and also we are targeting a very difficult population.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much much, everybody. That was all the Q&A that we have for this morning. So without further ado, I would invite the judges to make your way to your deliberation room where you can discuss and try to identify the two people that will be are going to Sydney. So Carla sent you a link via email. So you leave this meeting and you go back and then you come back. And we shall see you in about 10 minutes. And for the other ones, please stick around because you know it's 10 minutes to go, and I do have a few questions for you because it's you know, you had 4 different topics that were very different from one another, which is always very good because it just shows the wide range of what actually is actually doing on a day-to-day basis. And I'm just going to build on the last one because Jose Miguel, your presentation about inclusive insurance is one of the things that we try to support at the IAA. For example, I had a discussion with the president of the local association in India recently, who was telling me that the penetration rate of insurance in their market is less than 2%. It's a huge challenge, and a little bit of you know, all of your presentation touch on some of these things, right? Whether from like having more education or more funding that can be regional, or for more leverage of AI, or more leverage of marketing and products and so on. So it's interesting that the same issue that we're trying to deal with on a global phase, like is likely going to be or require like a little bit of everything to be able to address, right? So let me know your thoughts about this. I'm going to start with Jose. Like, do you have a few ideas you want to share? And then I'm going to ask all of you. So like prepare your thoughts.
So, well, in my case, as you mentioned, for instance, just to give an example related to the product I tried to present in my video, just about 20% of the smallholder farmers in developing countries have an insurance coverage, which is, as you mentioned, a very low percentage or penetration rate. And one way of trying to increase this percentage is, well, to try to offer more inclusive products, in the sense that we need to be a bit more like flexible, in the sense that we need to bundle insurance with something else, because as I mentioned also in the questions, most of the people, or the low-income people in developing countries, they don't trust insurance. They don't believe in insurance. And also, it's quite surprising, but maybe you might know, due to some religion things, people cannot buy insurance as well in some countries. So, for instance, there is this sort of version of insurance called takaful. But yeah, I would say that bundling insurance with other products would be a very nice approach to try to increase the penetration rate, at least in developing countries, which is harder.
And maybe Sissy, you would, I'm going to ask you this because as Jose Miguel mentioned, and I know in some countries, like people actually prefer to take the money that they have and put it in the ground, because there's been run on banks, there's been dictatorship, there's been changes of government, so they don't even trust the financial institutions, let alone the insurance, right? And with your communication, your marketing that you do, like, do you think that there's a way around this? Like what would be your thought?
Oh, I think that's a tricky one, because in order to make any change, you have to create that kind of social change and social awareness, which is actually probably one of the hardest things to do. I mean, it's easy to develop a product, it's easy to change the price, tweak a product, for example, but actually changing consumer and societal awareness and understanding, that's actually the trickiest bit. And I think that's something that I think insurers are all more aware of these days, where it is about trying to educate customers more. I know advisors, financial advisors, for example, a lot of their kind of work is also around educating their customers to better understand their needs. And then once they better understand their needs, the customers, they can kind of explain it better. And then the financial advisor can then help recommend solutions and insurance solutions. So I think what you're saying here is quite outside the scope of product, outside the scope of pricing and all of that. And that's more just yeah, using marketing, using the different relationships you have with marketing, with advisors. And there's a lot of not just independent advisors, but advisor kind of groups. There are insurance kind of forums, insurance blogs out there that do try and send awareness. Sometimes the main newspaper channels locally or nationally, they also have like a financial section, and they try and also educate people as well. So I think it broadens more, not just inside the actuarial communities, it's communications, it's within the media, it's also partially, you know, the government's job as well to create awareness and education. So it's a whole spectrum of different groups that have to kind of work together to create awareness.
Educating government is certainly a challenge. Like part of my background was in flood insurance and mortgage insurance, and let me tell you that the politicians always want to rebuild the exact same house at the exact same place because that's what the local population wants. It's a huge challenge, and I know that's a big challenge in the United States. Matthew, like, where do you see like the role of the actuary? Because and we started in inclusive insurance, and now we're talking about other things, but like part of your presentation, like one of the main, I guess, roadblocks would be educating politicians, right, to make sure that they understand that, you know, some of these elements are not necessarily going to help them get reelected, but it's what's right for everybody, right? So how do you balance that messaging, or trying to leverage actuarial input into educating politicians about some of these things that you know, as a society, maybe that's where we should be going, even though it's not sexy for politicians.
Yeah, you know, I think that a key component there is the word actuary. So, and I didn't memorize like all the different groups. There's a lot of different actuarial societies represented here, but I can speak from like the CAS. We, you know, I've been in a conflict once where someone essentially wanted me to do something that is definitely against our professionalism standards, and so I had to remind them that, like, listen, I'm not beholden to the company or even to our customers. It's the public and the profession. And a lot of standards before this I kind of was skimming, and that's something that's really important to express to well, anyone in the government, is that just, hey, the difference between us and a data scientist, I mean, they do have standards that they're starting to develop, but it's a lot more Wild West with the data scientists. Sorry, I said data. Chicago, I don't know what to say. But you know, we have a certain ethical bound that we hold ourselves to, and and we really do. We're pretty ruthless in policing ourselves, which is good. I think that so that's the first thing I think is very critical. Our history proves that. So in the U.S., you know, we had the major financial crisis of 2007 to 2008, and besides in exam 6 we have to learn, like, besides AIG, insurance companies, you know, survived, and because we have such a rigorous regulatory experience, at least in the US, but also because we have so much redundancy in our like, you know, how we handle capital and things like that. So, you know, and then there's other historical examples that I was just thinking of a few before this, but we can lean on that and push for more transparency. I think for what Miguel's talking about too, with like people who are hesitant, it's because at the end of the day, yeah, they don't trust. It's a complex product. You get into math, it's already complex for a lot of people, but even our math is confusing to each other. So I think that making things transparent as much as possible for personal lines products, and as much as like small business type products, making the rating plans effectively more and more transparent, forces more competition between insurers, which helps the insured and can maybe help regain trust from the government who regulates us and from the population themselves.
Yeah, and I'm sure, and when we think about building trust and so on, I know it's a huge challenge recently in South Africa. Dorota, you want to, and we don't need to go into politics of it because I know that's complicated, but for example, I know that right now you probably have load shedding because you don't have, or you have a big electricity issue in that country. And it's probably going to be tough to ask individuals to trust the system when the system doesn't even give them electricity, right? So what's, you know, how can you, as actually locally working in South Africa, try to help, you know, build that confidence?
So I'm impressed. Load shedding 24 minutes ago. Well done. Are you on my app? Do you know my schedule? Yeah, so obviously politics is very complicated in South Africa, like you said. It's extremely complex. So I think one of the huge factors in South Africa is that a lot of private partnerships come to the forefront as well. So a lot of things get done because of private partnerships. So with an idea like, having the UIF underlying with an AI, I think a big part of it would probably be partnering with the private sector in the upskilling of the benefits, especially providing courses. Also with the building out of the AI, you could also obviously partner with private, and then basically use that relationship and leverage it to basically get the public on board. And I think also another factor is, like Cece mentioned, like the communication and the marketing. I think it would be about speaking to the public, and obviously they would have just lost their jobs due to AI. So obviously there would be trust issues with the AI. So why is AI helping me get a job when I've just lost it because of AI? So I think it would also be up to actuaries to incorporate AI and machine learning into our profession, and then be at the forefront of communicating to the public and engaging with them about the benefits of AI, and that, it's like obviously increasing GDP, increasing productivity and efficiency. So how do we leverage the risks into opportunities?
Very nice. Maybe AI can play a bigger role in helping with your electric grid in South Africa. That would be reducing the load shedding, because I'm here. It's a little tough. So like a little like softer thing, because I want to hear from Sissy, because of course you've with the actuaries, the Australian Actuary Institute, so you probably know more Australia than all of us. So and because you were in Australia before, right?
Yeah. I grew up there, worked there for about six years or something.
Okay, so good. So there's three other candidates, and there's actuarially speaking, there's at least good chances. Well, for sure, we know one of them is going to be one of those three is going to be in Sydney. Whether it's it could be two, hopefully, or not, depending on you. But anyways, so what would be your recommendation? Say like you have like 4 days in Sydney, right? So you know it better than us. Like, what do we do? Where do we go? Like, where do we go hug a koala or whatever?
I think you'll have to go and see the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House for sure, but that's quite easy to get to because it's in the city centre. Really nice, it's like, I think they call it the Harbour City because you can just walk around. It's like clear, crystal blue water on a nice day, so that's really nice. I know everyone goes to Bondi Beach, but to be honest, I find it a bit too crowded there. It would be nice if you find some kind of smaller, quieter, less touristy beaches. In May, I don't know, the weather starts to get a bit colder, to be honest, but hopefully won't be too bad. And what else? You're after looking for, you want to see some sharks, kangaroos, snakes, tarantulas? Is it the whole lot? And then I suggest going to the zoo.
You got to see a kangaroo, right?
I don't think you'll see any of those before mentioned animals in Sydney if you're in the city area, unfortunately. You probably have to go a bit further out. The misconception that you see kangaroos on the street, not true. Snakes everywhere, actually not true. Spiders, maybe a few, but not like the big ones.
That is pretty fun. I mean, for us, I'm in Canada, so it was minus 37 degrees Celsius last week. So let me tell you, we don't have any snakes or spiders around like that. It is just not going to happen. And even Matthew, like you're close to Chicago, right? So
yeah,
it's
we get the Arctic.
Chilly.
Yeah, it comes down, and then it dwells because we have Michigan right over here, Lake Michigan here. So, what do you call cold, Sissy? That's what I should ask. What is cold to you? It's I use Fahrenheit, so I don't have a converter on me.
Okay, I use Celsius, so
yeah, it's got to.
I mean, understand each other.
I know I can't just do that in my head.
Someone will have to be our a translator.
But what I know about that conversion, -40 in both is really, really, really cold.
Yes.
And that's like pretty much the same. That's what I know, like
Yeah.
-40. Oh, it's always good. So Jose, I'm curious, like how did a guy from Mexico end up in Lausanne?
Because I'm currently doing my PhD here at the University of Lausanne. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. En français?
Oui, un petit peu.
Oh, super. No, but we are a bilingual organization, so I always have to say at least a few words en français. Donc, c'est excellent. Excellent. And Sissy, you went from Australia, now you're in London, if I recall, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's
wow,
right.
Very international of you.
The visa is very easy to get, so there's a lot of Australians in London because of that, and vice versa.
No, I was not aware of that. Very nice, very nice. Oh, that reminds me, I gotta get my visa for Australia. Good reminder. Thank you for that. It's one of those things I'm going to do until the last minute. I'm going to be like, oh darn, I should have done it earlier before. So, and Dorota, you are based in Johannesburg, if I recall, right?
Yes, yeah.
So what if we ever go to Johannesburg, like what do we need to go see? Because I do admit I've been there, never outside of the airport. So like that's like
Johannesburg, maybe more like Kruger or Pilanesberg on the much of like outskirts of Joburg. Joburg specifically, there are, Sandton has some cool restaurants, stuff like that. There's a really tall building in Sandton, so you can have like rooftop drinks, but otherwise it's completely a city. Cape Town has way more tourist attractions.
We had an international colloquia in Cape Town probably like 5 years ago, and full disclosure, I did go to Stellenbosch because I love wine, so I'm like just gotta do it, just gotta do it.
You have to.
Oh, and Carla says she loved Kruger Park indeed.
Yay, Kruger Park, that's
Carla.
cool.
Oh my God, Matthew, what do we need to do next time? Oh, wait a second, sorry. So I'm gonna, because I didn't ask Matthew. So next time we're close to a Chicago or her airport, like Matthew, what do we need to do?
Sure. Okay, really quick. Food is a huge thing. There's a debate about the best deep dish pizza. The answer is Giordano's, but lots of good pizza places in Chicago that you should try. If you haven't had it, it's like a thick pie. That's a pizza.
It's a casserole, Matthew. It's a casserole.
There are people who do not like it, especially people from New York.
I love it. I love it.
Okay. Oh yeah. But yeah, pizza. Of course, Chicago hot dogs, which means you put everything on it except ketchup. If you ask for ketchup, you could get in trouble, so don't do that. And then Italian beef is apparently a Chicago thing. But besides that, there's a lot of other food here. So I travel with your stomach.
Matthew, isn't that the new show called The Bear?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Have you seen this, Matthew?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you have to watch this. You have to watch this series. It's called The Bear. Yeah.
It's a great show.
It's really good. It's very Chicago-y. I was just watching it and it was like bundles of, like, pride.
It is intense, so I do not recommend it on a work date. It's very intense.
Yeah.
Okay, so without further doubt, because I know 4 of the individuals on this, like, must be like just dying to know what's happening. Frederic, Fred, is it you that are who's announcing the winners? I should know, but like it's not in my notes, so I do apologize. I'm just gonna go bounce to Fred.
Yeah, we have a spokesperson for the judges, and it's Tonya.
I thought we convinced Jan to do it. Oh my God.
I can. It's up to you. Do you want me to do it?
I do, Jan. I would like to do it, please. Thank you.
Now, it was a very interesting discussion which we had, but it was more a dialogue. We certainly listened to each other and really tried to understand where the preference were, because let's say at start the preferences of the different judges were also different. We all liked the all 4 presentations, certainly, but we certainly needed to understand why we liked some of them more than others. And finally, we decided that we have 2 winners, and those 2, the first one will be Sissy Zhang. So it's all up to the business case. So we really liked it and because we think that there's a real need to build on our skills as an actuary and to really be a business partner of the business leaders. So that is something we like the whole presentation. It was hilarious. Sometimes we thought, what is exactly the connection to the topic itself? But in overall, we really loved it. And the second one will be Jose. So a bridge to inclusive insurance. Certainly there's a very large need to work on that. There's a link to the actuarial science. And yeah, for sure, you thought about it. You thought through what needs to happen to make it happen. So therefore, the two winners are Sissy and Jose.
Really appreciate it. I mean, and congratulations, Sissy and Jose, Dorota and Matthew. You know, there's in 3 years we have ICA 2026 in Tokyo. So hopefully you're still going to be younger than 35. And if that is the case, you can still submit then. You can have the few more years to practice. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I got to say, at first I thought Jose was, I thought you were singing and playing the guitar and everything in your presentation. I was like, oh, this is going to be hard to beat. But I figured not. But anyways, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Jose's... Indeed, congratulations, everybody. Jose and Sissy, you will be contacted by my office to basically start getting your preparations ready for in person in Sydney. And thank you again for all the judges. Thank you for everybody who participated, to all the 44 candidates, all the individuals who did send something. Everybody, all of you are winners because your participation helped to showcase all the good things that young actuaries are doing from across the globe. And if there's only one thing that we can do on a daily basis is to show the value of what the actuaries are doing, then we have done our job. So it's very, very good. Thank you very much. Fred, you were the one who started this idea of the contest. I do want to hats off to you. Merci beaucoup, Fred. Do you want to have a little last word?
Well, thanks everyone, and thanks for the very good hosting, Mathieu. Very good, very well done.
Thank you very much, everybody. Carla, was there anything else that I should have read in my notes that I probably didn't?
Nope, you were good.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. You can go back and enjoy your day. Thank you, everybody. And like I said, Sissy and Jose, please look out for your emails. You will be contacted by my team very soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.